We had all liked Mr. Winscott. He didn't mind when we used the sledding hill on his property, and he always gave us the best Halloween candy in the neighborhood. So, when we heard he'd been taken by the tall man, everyone was really bummed out. You wouldn't have heard about the tall man, so let me explain. Tall Man has been a legend in my town for decades. Those who claim to have seen him say that he's over 9 feet tall, slight, and pale, with an exceedingly polite smile. My dad told me that Tall Man is a collector. He likes things. Dad says his favorite things to take are sad people, empty buildings, and dreams. I have to admit, he's stolen away my dreams more than just a few times. When Mr. Winscott didn't show up for church on Sunday, nobody thought that it was that weird. But then Monday rolled around and he wasn't at work with my dad. People started to whisper. My parents had thought it was odd, but not particularly concerning. But then the rumors started that Tall Man had gotten to him. A kid in my class even said that he'd seen Tall Man in Mr. Winscott's house through a window. I told my parents what Jake had seen, but all they did was laugh. Tyler and I biked by Mr. Winscott's place after school to get our friend, Rory. We never stopped in front of Mr. Winscott's to try and see if Tall Man was in the windows like Jake had said. We never even slowed down. But one day, we played a little too late at Rory's. Since we didn't want to bike home in the dark, we had called our parents and asked to sleep over. Tyler was allowed to. I, on the other hand, was not. I tried really hard not to look as I biked by Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac. I almost made it, but my curiosity forced a backwards glance at that house. The lights were all on and my eyes were drawn to the face in the window immediately. I saw a Tall Man looking back at me. I choked in a panicked breath and my foot missed the pedal as I tried to speed away on my bike. I stumbled, but only for a second, my eyes never leaving that face in the window, before pedaling home as fast as I could. The next morning at school, I had told Rory and Tyler all about Tall Man. They didn't believe me, of course. They hadn't believed Jake either. I know I had to show them. Otherwise, they'd just think I was a liar. We waited until dark and then biked to Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac. Tall Man was there, as I told them he'd be, watching us from the window above the front door. It was such a tall front door that I thought Tall Man must have been at least 10 feet high to even see out of that window above it. He was almost smiling, but his expression betrayed a certain displeasure. Tyler fell off of his bike. "Holy shit, run!" And we did. As soon as we cleared the cul-de-sac, we all began talking over each other in flustered panic. "I can't believe we saw Tall Man. Did you look at his face? We have to tell the cops. We went back there the next morning with more friends, but Tall Man was gone. We went back the next day, but again, could see no one behind that window. We began to wonder if Tall Man only came out at night. A few nights later, as we sat in Rory's basement waiting for pizza to arrive, we decided to sneak out and see if our theory was correct. We quietly rolled our bikes down the driveway and into the street. We took off for Mr. Winscott's house, torn between hoping Tall Man was there and just praying that he wasn't. We saw him as soon as we biked into that cul-de-sac. He was still there, standing after all, and this time, he was just outright frowning. "He's mad," Rory said. He wants us to stay away." "I don't get why he only comes out at night," Tyler said while he snapped a picture. "Don't," I hissed. "Stop taking pictures. You'll make him even madder." "Maybe he watches us in the daytime, too." Rory shrugged. "Maybe we can only see him at night because that's when the porch light comes on and shines right into that window." It was a chilling thought, really. We decided to test Rory's theory the following Saturday, emboldened by the assumption that Tall Man could only watch us, but never come out. As soon as the sun came up that morning, we biked to Mr. Winscott's. We had to get close, almost all the way to the beginning of his driveway, but Tyler swore that he saw Tall Man standing in that window. I made hand binoculars and squinted at the window for a few more minutes before Tyler suddenly said, "Let's go," hopped on his bike and just pedaled off. We caught up with him a few blocks later. "What the hell was that?" I asked. It was Tall Man. He was there, but he looked different this time." "Like how?" Rory asked. I don't know. He just looked angry or just wrong somehow." It was days before we can convince Tyler to go back to Tall Man's house. And even then he insisted on taking his teenage brother Matt with us. Matt wasn't really impressed with our stories at all. He didn't believe us. But he came anyway, for Tyler's sake. As soon as we got close enough to see Tall Man in the window above the door, Matt got off his bike. He stared and squinted and stared some more. He got closer than we had ever dared to go at night. We followed, nervously behind him. Matt walked up the driveway and then down the stone path to the front porch. We dared not follow that far. Then Matt went up to the porch stairs, right up to the front door. "Holy fuck," he said. Then 4 more 4-letter words. And suddenly Matt was running down the front porch, down the path, down the driveway, and out into the street where we waited. "What is it?" Tyler asked him. "There's no Tall Man," he said out of breath. "Call the cops, now." And he was right. It wasn't Tall Man after all. We stayed long enough to watch the police break down the door and cut the rotting corpse of Mr. Winscott from the ceiling where he had hung himself from a lamp fixture in his foyer. The body had decayed as if it were melting in the days we had watched it from the road. Mr. Winscott had written no note and made no goodbyes, leaving behind only the sad imprint of a divorced, middle-aged man suffering a sad, well-hidden depression. It was weeks before the town lost interest in this tragic suicide, and months before kids stopped asking us to describe the body in all its gory details. Eventually, even Tyler and Rory stopped talking about it. Everyone had moved on. Everyone. Except me. See, there was always one detail that bothered me. One thing I never told Rory or Tyler. It was about the first time I'd seen Tall Man. The time I'd been alone. The thing was, I saw Mr. Winscott that night. He'd been sitting alone in his kitchen eating dinner. But I'd seen something else too. In the upstairs bedroom window. There had been an impossibly tall, impossibly pale man staring back at me. And he'd been politely smiling. I hope you enjoyed this creepypasta. It was so interesting. I really like the story of the tall man, and I love how they kept it super spooky until like the end, and it's like, nah, man, it's just the guy's dead body. You know what I mean? But then he was actually still there. I like this. I think we should make Tall Man like a legitimate, like, mainstream urban legend, because he sounds absolutely terrifying. But as always, ghouls, the last video will be on the top left. The next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.